Hello and welcome. Vic City Report. We've got a treat especial for everyone today. I guess I've been hoping to call this series, I'm hoping it becomes a series, hoping to call it Regulators. Regulator with the amazing Jason Niles. I think first I'm going to give you a little bit of lowdown on Jason. This is, we got a little history here. We worked together to create this menswear back in whenever that was. And I guess you could even say this is almost a progression of that. Jason was born in London, Ontario, and moved out west after completing his urban planning degree from University of something out easty, while also spending some time studying in Europe. Jason's views on planning cities and process around how cities learn, grow, and change is not only educated, but Jason also knows how to think on multiple levels for the realities we actually face. Jason is the kind of person who can also switch a mindset to dreams we wish could only come true. So a little bit of that left brain, a little bit of that right brain. So I guess with that intro, Jason, hello.
Hello, Ian.
How was I there? Was that?
Yeah, I'm amazing. I'm from the Out Easty University, and definitely can get dreamy.
Because all those things, of those things are true.
Yeah. You're looking fine in some Is This Menswear product today.
Thank you. I know. Let people see what I wear. Maybe one day. But yeah. So do you know what? I thought it'd be fun to chat with you because as it's become pretty blatantly obvious, I have no idea what the process is for these developments I talk about and any of actually what I'm talking about for the most part. When it comes to I'm gonna just say a bunch of things and hopefully you can clear it up. How does the process actually work? Like, what is the deal with these zonings and these different neighborhoods and these plans? And when I'm talking about something where why is there a city thing where they approve it to go to a public hearing, and then there's a public hearing, at what stage should we comment? At what stage is it actually the best to engage with our city? I'm going to throw out a lot of that. Jason, take it away. Talk.
Well, unfortunately, it would be nice if all of this, the upfront process was in Sim City or such. It'd be that easy. But yeah, there's a lot of beforehand tasks that need to take place before a project gets approved, and it takes a long time, and some projects take years, some take 5 years. I've never seen a project go extremely fast, but that's just the nature of a complex process like development.
Okay, so start me at square one.
Square one would be
Should we look at should we look at some of the examples that we've talked about in previous episodes? Can we take the do you know the one that's on Shelburne, the cool triangle lot?
Yeah.
How would that go? How did that become a triangle lot?
That's a good question. Those are large. They look like large lots, probably divided after a district lot. A district lot would be a larger land area, and then subdivided into single-family home lots. So I don't know why that one got into a triangle. It could have been just a creative land use planner, or
there was a cool comment saying that it might have had something to do with Bower Creek being on the south side.
Well, it could be a right of way.
Is that a geography defining features kind of
because you would have setbacks from waterways and such.
And even as a planner, have you been able to be the person who lays down those plots?
Yeah, that's fun when you get to do site plan and layout approval for subdivision. So that's when you're looking at how to subdivide the land into smaller pieces for land ownership, and that's your time where you can also negotiate with the developer to get a parkland or setbacks, or create buffers for neighbors. Yeah, it's so you're working. It's in the world of planning. I studied at University of Waterloo, and it's the rational comprehensive planning model. So the idea of layering all these very depths of knowledge on top of each other to come out with a synthesis of an informed decision of how you do land use planning. So there's a lot of stakeholders, a lot of disciplines, and a lot of times my job is to help facilitate all the different speakers and interests that are involved in it.
So when did Victoria get its like lines on a map? Are we battling like history in a way, or should those be lines in sand, not?
Yeah, the lines they're digital lines now. You might see when you're walking on the sidewalk these little white posts in the corner of lots. So those are your property markers, and they used to be called the iron post, which would have been pounded into the corner of the lots to distinguish where they were. But they were really laid out like in a colonial time, from Victoria being the oldest jurisdiction here. You have your kind of Victoria, Oak Bay, and Esquimalt being your first round of the town and country planning style of land management, and then you have your next round of Saanich and I don't know, Sydney, the Saanich area, and then you have your next ribbon of like Colwood, Langford, Highlands.
So let's let's say I buy a lot of land.
Mm-hmm.
It has like, I guess there's so many technicalities. Let's say like even actually some of these like downtown ones, like these surface level parking lots.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say like those are getting made into condos. Let's say I buy that surface level condo. How do I make that into something? What do I have to?
Yeah, well, you have to have a vision first of all, and that's one thing I find a lot of. Sometimes the landowner and the developer doesn't have the right vision. They see more acquisition of getting land and doing development, but if they don't have a vision of how it fits with Victoria, then there's where your first error is. You in a design process, the earliest time to work with a design is in the conceptual stage.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna get real dreamy here for a second. Okay, so I want to buy one of the surface level parking lots that we have, and I want to put up like a 60-story dream building, the arc angles.
Oh wow!
Like plants for half the Christ's sakes on the side of it.
Yeah, the views. Think about the views.
It's got a skate park going down it.
Well, yeah, you have zoning bylaws distinguish the height limitation. So, and then you have your official community plan, which is the kind of like the mama and papa of the zoning bylaws. So the OCP, official community plan, is where your vision. So first it would be in that community plan, does it state that we want tall structures in that area? That's the vision of the community held by the local government, mayor and council, and elected officials on behalf of the citizens. If you're a developer, you come in, you buy that piece of land, and it doesn't allow you, you're going to have to rezone. So you're going to have to provide rationale why it is the best use for this land. And, at that time, you need to do studies. You need to do studies of traffic, soil, geotech, consultation, view corridors, what it looks like from the other side of the city. This one site is actually part of the whole city.
Okay. And then, so we've got that. I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Like I did my shadow study.
You got renderings with lens flares in them.
Oh, 3 lens flares. I'm looking at like the future where we actually are in space and we are like around the 3 suns. Fuck those lens flares. Yeah. I got the hipster add-on pack, so it looks like young and youthful. Yeah.
Well, wouldn't it be dreamy for us to actually see what more of the thought process was going into some of these developments? So what is the thought process behind some of these proposals, and did they even think about it, or are they trying to replicate something that they've seen before in another city? It'd be nice to hear that conversation, or even hear how the staff at City Hall are working with them. It's like we get these products, and sometimes we're standing here being like, how did we get this far? Yeah,
like whatever that Jackson one, that I'm just look at that proposal and that kind of a piece of land in that area, and I'm like, fuck, the neighbors are pissed off. Like it's just fucked, like completely fucked. And I blame the architect on that one, because I'm like, if you're signing your name on this, what are we gonna do? But okay, so I bought my land. I go to rezoning. What is rezoning? Like, how do I?
So yeah, your zoning bylaw has multiple zones in it, and the zoning bylaw is to regulate your use of land and the density of land, and if you don't have your permitted use in that zone, first of all, you're gonna have to rezone to allow for that permitted use. Then you're also gonna ask for all the land use specifications of height, or maybe setbacks, or maybe you want a zero front line to create a nice like frontage to the streetscape. But you're gonna have to make an application to rezone to the city, and staff will review it and make sure that you have all the correct supporting documentation, and then it'll probably go to a community neighborhood group where they would
provide like letters in the mail.
It'd be I think they call them caluks here in Victoria, where no letters in the mail
in the mail.
Yeah, at that time a developer should be also, you have your base minimum of what a developer should be doing, an applicant should be doing, but a lot of the times they should be going overboard and talking to the neighbors, get them involved in the beginning, so it's not at that public hearing stage. It's really too late to really try to influence the design. It's public hearings really at a time just to say your word about the project and influence the decision maker's decision.
Can you be like? First off, do you need to own the land to be able to ask for rezoning? Like, can I just go apply for like my wild, crazy ideas for anywhere I want?
No, you would have to have some type of signature from the property owner. The city can technically rezone property
at any time.
At any time, because they're the ones that holding. It's their document. Yeah, it's their bylaw. It's their
map. They can change I remember you had to answer my question about what the car lot was that'll be the national rental, because it was like CA-4, and I was so confused because I was like, well, right next door is the Falls, and that's all like that thing where there's like a bank, and you're explaining those hilarious ones. Where was that one where it's zoned something, the weirdest zoning of what businesses can be in there.
Yeah.
So then when we even that's another step of regulation too. Like the city. And this even gets to the crazy.
Dry cleaning.
Well,
it's always fun to see dry cleaning.
Because that would be like super industrial.
Because zoning originated from the idea of making sure that compatible uses next to each other were working together. So taxidermies and
where is a good taxidermy?
Who knows? They're usually down by the water.
But then, okay, so...
Casinos, that's a hard zoning to get done.
Oh, yeah, because they tried that recently, didn't they?
Yeah, casinos, incinerators, taxidermies, those are usually the hard ones.
That's a great question. What would be the hardest? And, I find the marijuana, cannabis ones to be so interesting, because when I look at the provincial legislation... Not even looking at the fact the federal legislation is one thing, is those really guidelines for the provinces to follow. Mm-hmm. The city was issuing business licenses when the province dictates in theirs, says that you need to have your licensing in your space but not be open. So the cities issued these licenses, but my thing is the provincial government now basically will have to turn a blind eye to any dispensary the city is licensed and allowed to operate, because they've technically been breaking the law. So from even a regulation standpoint, who is the person that rubber stamps these things? Is it high level bureaucrats that are city staff? Are they actually elected officials?
The zoning?
Something like that, these business licenses and stuff. Is that just staff work on the zoning regulations?
I don't know a lot about business licensing, but they are connected. For instance, another example would be Airbnb. Now you have to have a business license. Well, you submit your business license thinking, oh, I'm about to run my great Airbnb. It gets circulated within the departments of the city, and then suddenly planning will catch wind and go, hey, they're not even allowed to have Airbnb there. So, business license is a great way to it's a kind of a fish net to capture what uses are happening and to gain some income, because municipalities are pretty strapped of how to raise revenue, and that's the province.
Well, I got a plan. It's called a 40-story building with a bunch of taxpayers in it.
Yeah.
Like, even I battle with that one when I look at like the rising property like we talk about affordability, but then I look at the same time we have a huge love of amenities, and it's even at like, you know, last week's council meeting, there's people coming in and talking about like the Gonzales community plan and saying that like they don't want more density in Gonzales, but I struggle with that because I'm like, it's that kind of like that attitude of like, I don't want this to change, but at the same time there are people that are like, you keep giving me amenities and they cost money, so my taxes are going up. But it's like, where do you think taxes come from? Like, does more residents not equal more taxes? Or if you get more residents, does that just drain your amenities that it ends up costing even more?
Yeah, well, people I think get mistaken with taxes is how it works is you have your tax base, and then the city develops how much is it going to cost to run this city, infrastructure, services, programs, etc. Then they take that cost and they create a mill rate and apply it to the tax base. So they're never really using taxes to generate a huge cash flow to create wealth. It's the tax rate, and taxes is to pay for the operation of the city. So there's never this like, it's not a business where it's creating more and more money to like create for a special project we don't know about. There are different funds that are obviously creating interest, etc. But the mill rate is what really creates what.
So are municipalities allowed to run? They must not be allowed to run a deficit, essentially, because you'd have to, like, that's like what we see with the bridge, where you have to see a referendum for lending, which would essentially be a referendum for deficits, would it not?
Yeah, and that's why, like, large lending, like the bridge, etc., there's usually a referendum that has to take place, because a lot of the times that they're lending money from the municipal finance group. It's a large umbrella that does pretty much trading tax dollars money on the stock exchange in a sense, in a because
we're going to be good for paying it back.
Yeah, we're triple. Yeah, we're high credit rating. Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So how?
But
so let's say that I buy my Elliot's just coming for a visit. Let's say I buy my piece of land. And like, I don't want to take it to rezoning. I don't want to do all this. The excavators show up and we start digging.
You're gonna pretend you're in Houston, Texas.
There's places I can do this.
Yeah, Houston, Texas has no zoning.
No.
Yeah, so you just go in and it's called free market. And these are theories that have been discussed around. Is like, this is a layer of governance that we've decided to put on city building to create a common good and make sure taxidermies are not next to us. And
wow. So what happens? I show up in Victoria and I just start digging. What's like the first thing that's gonna happen?
It's uncharted territory, I believe. I'm not sure exactly what would happen, but you would, if everything's looking good, probably the project will go quite fast to get completed. But if you're contravening a bylaw, it's a bylaw, so there is penalties and fees attached to it, and therefore it would be up to the city to enforce it.
So there'd be a bylaw inspector would show up.
Yes.
And I guess you're right, because it'd be like, so
in UK, a planner like myself has the authority to show up and stop work.
So they can make, and what if I'm like, cool, thank you, and we just keep working? Like, how do they physically stop? Like, can they call the police and be like, they're violating a bylaw?
Yeah.
What's the police gonna say? Like,
Well, it would suddenly go to the civil courts, I'm sure. Yeah.
So I guess almost with the best example of that been what we see with the 10 cities in a way.
Yeah.
Like occupying land, and then the only way to make it, like, okay, so what if I do it on provincial or federal land in the city? Would it still be the city?
Well, yeah, it's interesting when you have 3 tiers of government and there's jurisdictional power, and obviously federal trumps everything. But it is each level of government is supposed to respect the bylaws that each level of government has created. So provincial or federal land is zoned just like any other land. Also, you can have zoning out onto the water, into the forest area, and yeah.
Clearly don't have
You're getting a
with
delivery.
Loud vehicles.
Big delivery here at Ian Russell's.
But okay. So wild ideas. What would it take? How rogue could a city council go? Could we take over, pair up with a rogue developer, and start building on the Coast Guard lands down on Dallas Road, or whatever road that's on there, next to like Shoal Point? Could I build my 40-story tower? I'm
the type of person, anything is possible. You could do it, and it definitely would create headlines pretty fast. But if it's an emergency and we need housing,
we're in a housing crisis.
Yeah,
but like this,
we do. And you look at it, we have these parcels of land that, what are they actually doing for the city?
Yeah.
If they're just sitting there with some dumpsters and an ATCO trailer running a federal service that we're not even sure how we're gaining from it.
Well, I always think too, like, why can't those spaces be incorporated in spaces we live in? If we work in those spaces, which I assume the people that work there are housed in the city, why can't I, as someone who works from home, occupy a similar space with a similar view as they do for their workplace?
Correct. Yeah.
And like, to me, is that like, and I think of that, I'm like, that just seems like smart land use. And is like density not smart land use?
Well, I think it is, because you have I really believe in the natural growth pattern of a city. Therefore, we have these nodes of growth that where people are already there, and therefore people like to be around people. So if you look at the morphology of Victoria and see where our centers and villages are, and then see where there's no people living, and question why aren't there people there, and if it's just a matter of fact that it's a different jurisdiction of government that's owning that piece of property, it seems like it's definitely, and what happens is that's also displacing that need for development is getting displaced in other places of the city, which are creating concentrated and heightened and aggressive. It's creep. So if it's not happening here, then it's more intensified in other areas of the city. Yeah.
Which I think, honestly, probably the best example of that has been the 10 cities. Because if you think about it, it's like they've been a great indicator of space, of unused space, and the way that we could actually all use space better.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even I get the fight for like over density. Like there's interesting things on like Hong Kong, and that like what happens when you do see like crazy amounts of density. And I wonder like that, even being in New York and seeing what food's like, and how different food security is in those kind of places. But
you come to a point where the mindset definitely has a transformation. You look at City of London, Britain. It was not a city known for tall buildings. Everything was kept quite low, and then in the last five years, we've seen that change. Same with Stockholm. Same with these cities that have very preserved historical downtowns areas, but they realize that we're in a new frontier where we need to create density in a pleasant manner for both residential use, but as well as for workplace and attraction of new amenities. Look at the High Line in Manhattan, and now Toronto's realizing that they haven't incorporated enough amenity space in their downtown for green space. If you do any type of survey with a city resident, the number one thing that people really want is
parking.
Access to open space.
Parking. Huh? Get it? They just want parking.
Parking. They want to go parking.
Yeah, that's all people really want is parking.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, actually. I think that's always a funny one where what is the most contentious issue with any development that usually comes up? Parking. What is the thing that residents really love about the amenities their city provides? Parking. You know, like it's funny to think, like, what do people often complain about parks? Parking. And I think, like, and it's interesting, I find the bike lanes are an interesting look at, like, land use of, like, whatever gets people using civic space. So it's like, whether it's in a car, in a bike, in a wheelchair, with their legs, with their dog, with their cat, with their ferret, you know, like, as long as people are, like, out and about, that's what is the city, which then, does that not speak to what our development should look like? Which I battle. I just don't know why there's such a fight and a resistance to more people, when simple fact is more people want to live here.
Yeah, I feel that it's just not Victoria that goes through this. There's lots of places that you don't, change is the constant, and people are fear the uncertainty of the future. If they have a comfortable life where they have their job, they have their family, and everything's going right, I don't want to have that change. And it's interesting because at the same time we have a electoral base that are voting very, you know, we have strong NDP, we have our first Green MP, we have thinking about long-term multiple generations. Well, the biggest thing that we can do is how to live better as people in urban centers in a very balanced way, and therefore this whole idea of I don't want any more people in the city, in a sense it's hypocritical of how we're speaking at a value-based level. So I find that one interesting, because the first step for sustainability is how can we live better in cities, because that's where the change is going to happen.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. Well, I think with that we'll almost wrap it up. Jason,
does that help?
Well,
do you own any land?
No, I own no land. I own negative land.
Yeah. Well, where's your dream site?
Oh man. I'm interested in what's gonna happen with the Rock Bay site once that finally gets decontaminated with, like, come on, it couldn't have been that bad. You know, nothing a layer of concrete doesn't fix, you know, a layer of concrete and 40 stories of glass. But yeah, that site interests me. All the parking, the ones that always get me, and it's so cool to see it happen in my lifetime, is the parking, the service level parking. And I remember there was the 2 on Yates Street that used to always just boggle my mind. And then the atrium's there, and now there's, like, the yellow, and there's the Era and the other one. It's just so cool to see. It's
nice to see those fill out.
And even to see the proposal this week of 727 Yates, which is that it's the last one of the heritage buildings next to that god-awful Investors Group building, which is fucking mechano architecture 101.
Yeah.
But it, like, that first stage of computer-aided design where you're, like, pulling and dragging the blocks of things that, like, match your library of things you can use.
Yeah.
But to see that building is getting incorporated with the owners of the other buildings, so it's just gonna be one. And, like, I love that. That reminds me of what's down on Johnson Street, and where I've been able to, like, see friends' places that are these, like you get to go inside those kind of buildings, and you just see the way people get to live in a city that's like so fucking cool. That it reminds you of, like, you know, New York, London, Paris, you know, the cool cities have places like that, and it's cool to see more of that. But
well, yeah, it's another exciting part I like is out towards Hillside, along Douglas, that whole area out by the Armory, and I think they've been calling it almost like we have uptown and downtown. They've been calling it like a mid
right by the arena. There's actually, I love the LED art amenity on that one building. I'm like, I want to live in that building just because it's got, like, a dope public art amenity on it.
Yeah.
And even, like, the Hudson Muse for his, like,
That
cookie cutter as that is, it's been planned. It's like you said, it's been planned. They thought about it before they developed it. They're like, we'll save this heritage building. We'll build we'll build the biggest buildings in Victoria, but we'll connect them with interior walkways. We'll have a public market. We'll engage the public where everybody's going to say, okay, yes. And then, of course, you got a Romeo's right behind. So fuck it, you can go over to Romeo's. But yeah, and then look what we see with like Atrium 2.0. Yeah, stuff like that. It's cool. But yeah, I hope we can do this again. I hope we can get more people engaged.
Well, thanks for having me, Mary. I think it's important for people to know the process, and B is to speak up early, even if there isn't a project going on in that vacant lot down the road, is get involved right now. That's the best part. Is as the earliest is the best.
What should we do? Get in touch with landowners?
Yeah.
Stage one. Where do we find out who landowners are?
You can go to the land title office down in the atrium, and you can look for the legal description and pull the title, and it'll have the registered owner right there.
Perfect. And a little bit of Googling.
Yep.
1-on-1 emails. That's my one. I'm like, I swear, Marshall McClure told us, don't be a lazy fuck. You know, it's in our houses. It's how we're supposed to communicate. We used to write letters for our advocation. We used to travel by horse and carriage to tell people something or why. Gathering around the fire to tell our stories is part of what makes us humans. You know, because we do it in email and phone calls nowadays, doesn't change the fact that we still need to do it, and it's inherently human. That's all I got. Another passion plea from what I'd like to call my armchair activism. I'm a lazy fuck, so you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.